Hope you're doing well. First of all, let me just apologize for this little delay. So, technical issue that we had. So, let me just start by asking you a very quick question that will be very interesting for you. Can solar really power your business? That's the question usually I hear from people. Can solar power a business? Is it a bit too fancy of a solution, solar? Is it really serious? Can you share an example of a business that has gone solar and is happy with it? Whoa, these are the typical questions that I keep on hearing on a daily basis, right? And that's normal because you have many businesses that are asking the sort of question. They're hearing that, okay, you can go solar, you can power your operation, you can be very happy with it. But can you share an example? That's exactly what I want to discuss today. But before we jump into that, let me first of all just reintroduce myself. So my name is Tony Chiu. I'm the founder and CEO of Renewables in Africa. And our idea is very simple. We want to make renewables easy and seamless for you to connect, demystify the renewable energy sector for you. So we want to do it because if you are an investor and you're saying, I have lots of money in the sector and I want to pour money into the sector, but I don't have enough information, I can definitely promise to you in this channel, you're definitely going to find information that are suitable for you. Or you may be a business thinking, okay, I like to go renewables, but I don't have enough information. I want to decarbonize my operation. I have high energy costs. I'm thinking of maybe going solar, but I'm not sure whether that's the right thing for you. So this is exactly why we're running our channel, just to make sure that you have the right information to share with your people and you can take the right decision. Or maybe you could be telling me, listen, so I'm very interested to get into renewables, right? So I'm in a different sector, but I want to be part of it. Well, listen, this is exactly the journey that I've done more than 10 years ago. So I used to be in the automotive sector, right? So a lot of you, I'm sure, have already heard that from me. And as I say, I managed to get into the sector, and you can do that as well. And definitely one of the things that we want to do in our channel is to make sure that you have relevant information you can relate to, and you can make sure that you can also apply that to you. So hopefully that's okay. What we're asking you is actually three things. First of all, we like you to connect with our platform because we're actually broadcasting from 5 platforms. Yes, 5 platforms. So we have LinkedIn, so we have YouTube, we have Twitter, we have Facebook, and we have Telegram. So I like to think that at least one of those channels, right, are actually good for you. So we want you to connect to that. In fact, if you don't mind, we actually want you to connect to all of them. Yeah, connect to that. And the second thing that I'm going to ask you is just to leave a message. So leave a message, leave a comment, tell us what you think about what we are doing. Tell us what you think about the topic that we're bringing forward for you, and tell us whether you agree or you disagree. Because it's not a question of just agreeing with everything I'm saying, but it's about exchanging. My job is to bring in front of you information for you to connect with and to make up your decision, right? So that's what it's all about. And the third thing that I can ask you, please, is to share the video with all of the people that you know. And in fact, let me just tell you, if you happen to be watching right now, so I'll be very, very happy if you can just share the video with people that could be interested. Because today, I'm sure you're going to be interested because we're talking about a case study, a real project that has happened. And I just want to give you some information about it so that you can see whether it relates with you as a business, it relates to you as as an investor, or it relates to you as a potential professional in the industry, or maybe already a professional in the industry. And this is what I like to I like to connect with you with. So hopefully this is actually clear, and then and we can go forward as I'm talking. So feel free to be dropping messages and dropping questions because I like to respond to your question, right? Because I think I have something very interesting to show to you, and that's actually the first part only. And I'll be very keen to get some of your questions. Now, let's go back to our topic, shall we? Right. So one thing that I have seen a lot is that there is at times a lot of skepticism, right, in the business community about solar, right? So, and if you're a business or a business owner, you sometimes have doubt, and that's normal because you're thinking, I'm having a lot of issue with energy costs, right? They're quite high at the moment, especially in a time of inflation, right? And I'm struggling with power outages, especially if you happen to be in an emerging market, more specifically in African countries, right? Power outages. And I can see that I need alternative power. Yes, I've been using diesel, but I know diesel actually rejects a lot of CO2, and I want to play my part. So I'm keen to go to consider green solution, especially solar, but I have a doubt. So I'm thinking, is it the right thing for you or for me? And the reason I can relate really with this kind of question is simply because these are questions that I see on a regular basis. Let me just tell you that, for example, no later than yesterday, my team and I, for example, were discussing with a business owner in Nigeria, right? So we essentially showing him a solution that he could be interested in, because as a solar developer ourselves, so we are quite accustomed to this kind of question. But what I wanted to do today is not about talk about one of our example, because if I see that, I know some of you may be accusing me of being a little bit biased, right? So I thought, okay, let's look at another example that is not a renewable in Africa example, but an example that I've seen in the business and I thought is very interesting to bring forward to you, right? And I want to talk to you about an example that I've seen in South Africa, and this is actually quite interesting, right? And it's an example, it's an application that we've seen in the country. So let me just describe it to you a little bit better. So after that, you can see whether or not you correlate. So this is a bank, right? So it's a bank who's actually looking to go solar. That's actually the largest retail bank in South Africa, right? And the biggest digital bank in South Africa. So I'm sure many of you will recognize that this is Capitec, right? So after going through a lot of thinking, right, like many of those businesses will do, so they've decided to go solar, which is a great thing for me. So when every time I hear about example like that, I'm very pleased. And you could be asking, so why would they want to go solar? Well, the typical response that we see, right, there's actually three of them. So number one, they want to minimize the reliance on the grid. Why? Because the grid is not performing good enough for them. And as a business, you just can't afford to be just saying to your customer, oh, I've lost power, I've lost power. No, you got to deliver because you have order that you need to meet. So how do you make it happen, right? Definitely they want to reduce the reliance on the grid. They also want to minimize the energy costs, right? Minimizing your cost is something very, very, very important, right? Because if you're talking about growing, so there's two ways you can do it. Just making it quite simple. You're increasing your revenue and you're reducing your costs, right? One or the other. Ideally, you want to do the two. And the bank clearly want to reduce their energy costs. And so would be many other people, especially in this current time where we can all struggle from inflation, right? So and energy costs that are actually going higher and higher. And the third thing that we can talk about is the fact that the bank as well, like many, I would say, many conscientious business, they will want to play their part, contributing towards the net zero, because countries are taking commitment. We could see, for example, Nigeria decided to set up a transition plan, whereby they will actually target a net zero in 2060, right? So whether or not we agree with that, this is not a topic, but clearly the country is making a commitment. South Africa will making commitment, and so on and so forth. And when country will take commitment like that, they cascade that down to businesses, and businesses definitely means that they also have a responsibility to play, right? And this is actually what is happening right now. So clearly, those are the three reasons, right? The bank wanted to go solar. So after going through a lot of thinking, that's what they decided. Now, what are they going to do? They're going to obviously commission a company that's going to do that. So in this specific case, so we're talking about a company called Empower. So I know Empower quite well. Let's put it that way. So it's been a couple of years we've been talking and engaging together. So clearly a company that I strongly will recommend if you were to ask me. And obviously I've approached them because I wanted to talk about this project. Why? Simply because I always like to give, let's say, tangible application that people can see, can look, and can see whether it correlates with their business or not, right? So I've approached them and they were keen enough to accept for me to share those information with you. So normally what will happen is when we have such a project that you want to design, so as a company, right? So And I'm saying that because, as I say, so as a developer, I have a little bit of understanding how it works. So you clearly want to understand what is the load profile, yeah, uh, of the company. So let me just share a very quick presentation here, because I'm also sometimes as well conscious of the fact that not all of us are equally as versed in the energy sector that I could be. Because I remember there was a time I didn't know anything. So a loads profile, it looks a little bit like that. By the way, this is an example. This is not me saying that this is the load profile Capitec. It is not. I'm just sharing, yeah, an example of what a load profile could look like. So that's an example of a typical a load profile. And when you have such a load profile, you also want to understand. So if you want to go a little bit deeper, so how is this load profile distributed, right? So where is it really coming from? So again, what I'm showing here very quickly, it's the breakdown for an office, because if you're talking to, because obviously you need to understand what kind of application you're dealing with. So in this case, we're talking about a bank. There'll be lots of offices, right? So I just represented here, broadly speaking, what the distribution of power could be, the breakdown of power could be for an offices, right? You can see here space heating. Obviously, that's an office that could be in a temperate climate. But you have space heating here, space cooling, computer. So it gives you and lighting, right? It gives you an idea what that load profile could be. It could be based off. So what I'm saying is, so the company, so Empower, most likely that's what they would have done. Understand, right? What is the configuration of this customer? Understand as well. So what is the breakdown, and then design a solution that goes with that. And that's what they've done. So they've not come up with a design. Oh, by the way, so let me just stop sharing here. They did not come up with a design. And basically, the reason I wanted to have these email on my back, that's what it looks like, right? You're looking at top down. So that's what the solution look like. And I will be sharing here. So a few pictures for you to have a better understanding. It's a beautiful project, right? So when I look at that, I'm so pleased to see that, right? So let me just go back to the presentation, because what I want to show you here, it's some details about the system that they built, right? And the reason again we want to do that is because we are looking to demystify the renewable energy sector for you. So I mean, as a business in the community, you may be interested by that. So in this case, we're talking about an 700 kilowatt rooftop solar, so less than a megawatt. So clearly as well, you also want to have here a battery system, and obviously we were using the generator because one of the things that you will know, so especially for countries where the grid is not that stable, so you will have any, I would say, trusted business, and any responsible business will want to have a generator in place. And then because you're having different system working together, you want to have a management system, right? In this case, obviously, the building, you happen to have a manager system that will be allowing the whole system to work correctly, right? Controlling the rooftop system, right? The battery, the on-site generator, and making sure that they make it quite seamless to work. And in terms of the yield here, so for some of you who are a little bit more technical here, we're talking about more than close to 1.2 million kilowatt hours for the first year. And then if you're looking at a 20 years period of time, so more than 20 millions of kilowatt hour that you see here. And here, that clearly will be providing sufficient power for the business to be able to rely on that and carry on with their businesses, right? So I just wanted to give you an idea what the breakdown of the system look like, so that it makes a bit more sense for you. So hopefully that is quite clear. So I actually want to maybe go ahead and then show you a couple of pictures before I carry on talking about that. Oh, by the way, as I'm saying that, if you have any questions, please just drop it, and I'll be more than happy to respond to that the best I can. Because as I say, the system has not been designed by me. I've just taken an interest into that. So I've asked the team Empower whether they were happy for me to talk about this project. They'd be keen to share that with me. And then obviously, as you can imagine, for me to be able to share this presentation in front of you, I need to understand a bit some technicalities, right? So if there is a question, I'd be more than happy to take a couple of them. But the one thing I can say already, you'll be happy to hear about that, is that on Sunday, I'm actually getting one or a couple of their engineers to come around, and we can have a direct conversation, and I can ask questions, and they're going to give you even more information about it. So hopefully that makes it, and that is okay. So let me just carry on, and then and ask and share with you a couple of questions, a couple of pictures, right? So I'm sure that you will like it. So let me just share my screen. 1 second. Where should I go? Yep, here. Okay, great. I think I can share my screen now. So that one picture that you could see, that is actually quite that's looking at the system, the top, the way is of the way they've positioned all the panels there. So you can see it's actually quite beautiful. So we could see in the middle here, they just couldn't use that space. They have to go around the square, the rectangle, in order to be able to position that, right? So having enough roof space, it's very much important when you're designing those systems, and you want to make sure that you understand that very well. So another picture just from another angle that you could see. So look at that. That's still looking at that from the top view. So a different angle here. So clearly you can recognize. So those of you who have been to South Africa, you can recognize here the mountain in Cape Town. So beautiful. So I've been there. So I'll be back there hopefully in March. So I can't wait. But you can get a better idea of what the system look like. Let me just give you another angle, another view. You could see. So as you can see, it's just very beautiful to see. And look at all that magnificent, great, beautiful sky with the sun, right? So clearly allowing you to harness the power that is there, right? Excellent. So drilling down a little bit more. So again, because some of you may be a little bit more technical, want to get a bit more understanding. So that's the picture of the battery system, right? So you can see here it says the battery on side here. It's a 500 400 kilowatt hour battery system. So yeah, that you can appreciate. And yeah, so that you could see as well. I think that's a hybrid inverter, if I'm correct, that they've used AESS. Yes, that you could that you could see. So as I say, when we go on Sunday, so you'll be able to have a bit more information, because like I say, I'm bringing one of the engineer to come and talk to us a bit more specifically about the system, and then you will have a lot more technical questions that you may want to answer, you may want to ask, and I'm sure they will tackle that. So there is one thing that I wanted to still talk to you about, right? So that you again better understand the system, because I talked about the battery system, right? So normally, I don't want to make it too complicated, but let me give you a list of a quick description of how this battery system clearly is working in this case. So normally you would have the typical battery system, right? The conventional backup battery system that remain actually idle when remain idle, and when you have actually a power outage, this is how now they will come up, and they will function, right? So that's usually how a traditional battery system works. But in this case, and this is actually why I particularly thought that project was quite interesting, so innovative, I must say, is that the battery system here, so it's allowing the client, which is Capitec, to consume energy during peak time. So yeah, so that's very interesting. So again, let me share a very quick picture. So that's an example of what a peak demand could be. You can see there are peaks over there, and usually what happens is a lot of companies are not always very happy about those peaks, especially if they happen at peak time, because at that point in time, if you're going above, let's say, the maximum demand, that the maximum demand charge that the utility has assigned to you, you may be paying a lot of money. So a lot of people, what they do in this instance yeah, to make sure that they don't hit those, or they get rid of those peak demands, yeah, they will shift the load. So basically, whatever they're doing that is getting them to consume a lot of energy at this specific point in time, they move it at another time, time of the day, so that they don't actually go through that, and they're not having to pay heavy fees because of those peaks here. And the battery system that we had here with Empower, what made it quite interesting is that the solar was designed so that actually the company did not have to shift. That's actually how I understood it. So I may be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'm sure they correct me on Monday. No, sorry, on Sunday. So what I understood, that the company doesn't have to necessarily shift the load, but that peak load will actually be absorbed, even designed so that it's actually absorbed, by the solar and the battery, and the battery system, so that the company clearly carries on that the way they just work, and not having to get that peak charge. So basically, the peak charge is actually taken over by the battery and not by the grid, so that they're not having to incur those heavy fees, right? And that's how the Empower has designed the battery system in order to work like that. And I thought that was actually quite interesting. And I know that this kind of design can get even more complex, where you can have also some level of diesel generator that you include into that. But let me not go there, because like I say, the idea for it is to simplify the session for you, so that it makes it easier for you, right? So what you can retain here is there was a solar plus battery system that has been designed, and the battery system is designed so that it actually absorb the peak demand when it comes, so that that peak demand does not have to go through the grid, meaning that the company not having to pay those heavy fees, and this is how they are actually cutting down on their cost, right? So that's great. You remember, one of the objective of the company was to trim down energy costs. So that's what they're doing here, and obviously also making sure that they don't rely too much on the grid, especially with the power outages, which obviously the solar would allow them to do that. Now, I'm sure when you have a system like that as a business, then you want to ask the question. You want to ask and find out the question. So, how much is it going to cost? What's the payback time, right? So that's one thing that you want to find out. So, about the cost. Well, listen. So, if you're kind and nice, you may ask that to the engineer when it comes down on Sunday. So I don't have that specific information. And even if I have that information, it's not my job here to share that with you. But what I can tell you, though, right, to still give you an understanding, is that in the past, right, the payback periods of such a system would have been close to 8 years, right? So clearly, yeah, about 8 years or 7.5 years, put it that way. But what is actually quite interesting with this system, so from what I've been able to see, the data that have been made available to me, is that actually they managed to bring it down to only 3 years, right? In terms of the in terms of payback, so which is remarkable, right? So basically, you're cutting more than half the payback period. So that's great. So that means you invest in a system like that. So in 3 years' time, so you've already paid that back. That's fabulous. That's fantastic, isn't it? Right? And that's what we want. So that's the project that I wanted to show you. So clearly, Capitec is very happy about that. Capitec, obviously, for such a project, they have not just done it by themselves. I think they work with Empower for sure. But beside that, I think it's also fair to say that uh, uh, they have had to work as well with the municipalities, because the Capitec happened to be a client of Stellenbosch municipalities. So, and for such a system, so in South Africa, if you have a system that is greater than 350 kilowatts, so you need to go through a grid integration study, and you have it in many countries, right? So that means you need to collaborate with the municipality, and you need to have some permits, yeah. And the great thing, for what I know, is the municipality was kind enough to assist the project, making sure that they were able to get all the permitting approval in the record time, or at least in quick enough. So that was actually quite good. So, specifically what I was talking about here is a small scale embedded generation. So if happen to have some people from South Africa who wants to know exactly what is that I'm talking about, right? So yeah, so that's the project I wanted to talk to you about. And as I say, it's for me, it's a fantastic project. It's brilliant, and you can see how we could see an application like a bank. So, and that's a serious bank, right? I mean, all of you, many of you will know Capitec. And for a bank to decide to go solar, so that means clearly you would know they would have done their research, they would have looked at that carefully, and they would have selected as well, obviously, a very trusted solar player. In this case, that was Empower, who can deliver such a solution for them, right? So, and I can't imagine then the number of other businesses, the number of other banks, right, the number of other large retail enterprises, right, who thinking about going there. So both in South Africa, outside of South Africa, in the world, thinking of going solar, don't know whether they can do it or not. All I can just say, hey, listen, here is a project that I'm just sharing in front of you for you to be able to look at that, to see what is all about, and to understand whether or not this is something that could be useful for your business. I'm hoping that's actually helping you to see better, to see what you want to do, how you can do it. But basically, what I'm actually wanting you to do is to make sure that you to that listen to that again. Come back on Sunday, because on Sunday, as I say, I'm talking to somebody from the company, right? So and I want to be able to ask a lot of questions, and then we can get to find out more about the project specifically, about the business, how they do things, and then see how many of you will want to apply that for their business or not. So hopefully it does make sense, right? So I can see there is a lot of you listening to me. That's great, excellent. So if there is any question, that I'd be happy to respond. So if not, we can swiftly just wait for. Let me just look at that. Yeah, I can see. Is there any question? Has it been clear enough for you? So is it something that one of you does not understand? Very happy to talk about that. But on my side, like I say, I was very, very keen and excited to see this project. And project like that, I like to see a lot of them. That's actually why we are working so hard for, right? And I'm also actually quite thankful for Empower, because I know sometimes players don't want to share some information, because, and also it depends whether the customer is willing to do that or not. In this case in particular, they were happy to do, they would do so, and for me it was a pleasure to go through that. So if there is any question, so feel free to drop it here. So whether you have a question right now or you happen to have a questions afterwards, so if you're watching, some of you will be watching obviously not live, but afterwards. So if you still have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you want to find out more about the project, clearly you can reach out to the company, right? So feel free to tell them that you've been watching me presenting their project, and you want to find out more about that. Alternatively, feel free to reach out to me. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to make sure that I will drop in the comment box so my details. So let me just actually here. So let me just type here. So if you wanna send me question regarding the project in particular, if you are interested to talk to them, yeah, so definitely send that to Tony@renewablesInAfrica.com, or another way. So if you're on LinkedIn, definitely reach out to me so we can talk more about that, and I'll be happy to tell you everything I know about that. Yeah. If there is no questions, so all I can just say for today is it was a great presentation. I hope you've enjoyed it. Yeah, so I have more information that coming for you, but that would be actually for one of the engineer who's going to be sharing that, and you will have the opportunity to ask more and more questions, right? So this is all I have to say for now. And what is left for me to say is yes, so we're having another catch up on Friday, where we're going to have the second edition of our renewables and money, which is talking about the business of running a renewable energy business. How do you make money with that, and how do you make sales with that? Yeah. But also on Sunday, and on Sunday it's quite specific because I will have one or two engineers, depend who is available, one or two engineers of Empower. So this is a company designed this fantastic project. So they will tell us a little bit more about how they did it, so how they went through that, how they designed that special system with a battery system that allowed them to shave the peak of the demand and allow the customer, which is Capital Bank here, to save a lot of money. Yeah, not having to go through that. So hopefully that's clear for you. On my side, it was a pleasure to talk to you as usual. Looking forward to talk to you. And then all that is left for me to say is have a beautiful evening, and may the sun be with you guys. Take care. Ciao. Get better.